Hello, my name is Willie Wisely, and welcome to Watercolor Editions, a music podcast that takes you deep inside my series of new acoustic singles, celebrating 40 years of being a songwriter. Recording new solo versions of my songs has brought memories flooding back as to what inspired each one, and I want to share those memories with you as we play the new Watercolor Edition and then the original studio version and chat it all down. So now sit back and let me paint a picture for you. Platinum-selling record producer John Strawberry Fields is a character who returns again and again in my career. I first met him in 1995 when he was putting together a John Denver tribute album called Minneapolis Does Denver, and he invited me to contribute a track on it. He called me cold after a mutual friend, Mike Rickberg from the band Rex Daisy, had suggested that I'd be game for the project. Well, I was way more than game. Back in third grade, I had asked my piano teacher to assign me every song on John Denver's Back Home Again album. It had just come out the year before. Every song on that thing is either a smash hit or should have been, and when John Fields showed up to my pad in Dinkytown to sort of officially meet me and seal the deal, I had already run over to my mom's house, cracked open the old piano bench, and found the sheet music that I'd played so many years ago. And I stuck it in John's face and I said, "I'm so not a poser, this music is in my blood." And Fields was plussed. He was producing all the sessions, and his reputation as a monster talent, and also as an impetuous and rather self-confident person, preceded him into the room. And as sure-footed as I was about John Denver, and in as much as that I felt my vision for the track to turn this little soft acoustic ballad called Sweet Surrender into a soaring, raucous blues shuffle, I still went into Funkytown's studio that day for the first time very nervous. So nervous that at the last minute I invited local gadfly and Satchmo sound-alike, John Eric Thede, to guest vocal and to play piano on the track. I knew that if he was there, he'd sort of act as a smoke screen to hide behind if maybe the music wasn't turning out particularly inspired. Thede's personality in general soaked up all the oxygen in every room he was in, so I figured that would be my way out if things weren't going well. Well, I should have known that everything would fly high, if only because we have a John Denver song with John Fields producing it and John Thede guest vocaling, and yours truly, William John Wisely, setting up the groove and hitting it with the band. I'm thinking we did it in about 3 takes. Drummer Dorian Crozier, that was the first time I met him. Oh my God, what a player. He didn't mess around. No one messed around. I'm just glad we didn't name the band the Four Johns. Although I'm sure somebody already beat us to it, right? So after that session, John would soon invite me to be on his October Records label that he was running with his uncle Stephen Greenberg. And from there, we'd go on to collaborate, Fields producing 2 records for me in the next 2 years, and becoming a lifelong friend in the process. I would go on to manage his band, Greasy Meal. We'd both moved to LA in the early aughts, and he would get me set up with my first home digital studio. He's a real gearhead, so I need help in that department. And we'd go on collaborating all the way through my most recent album, 2019's Face the Sun. He produced that album. But here's the funny thing. Despite working together for 25 years, he and I had never set out to write a song together, like just the two of us. Well, Face the Sun is the story of that long overdue collaboration. In 2017, John Fields had a music-hungry client, one that had hired him to create a universe of original recordings. It was an enormous project across as many genres with as many different voices and personalities as possible, and to deliver it as soon as possible in the greatest quantity possible. John being terrifically prolific, he thrived in this environment, and he's always the guy in the room who knows the shortest distance between 2 places, so he enlisted friends like me, and the process went like this. John generated dozens and maybe even hundreds of ideas, scraps, riffs, chords, music beds, and he sent them out to a selection of collaborators who would then mostly finish the writing process so that John could produce the recordings, something he does with great pleasure and ease. So in the months prior, John had already sent me a few sketches for other songs that we had already brought across the finish line and delivered to the client. And that's when he sent me this faraway sounding pensive piano idea. And sorry, but as a fellow Beatles freak, it was easy for me to hear John and Yoko's Imagine as the inspiration. Well, this was actually exciting because it afforded me the opportunity to reverse engineer one of the greatest, most universally loved songs ever written, and to get paid for doing so. Now, in my normal artist process, I generally avoid this manner of working because I'm sort of a silly purist in my mind, and reverse engineering things feels like cheating. It feels like it's not coming from my inner soul, and I'm not using an individualistic approach. But hey, right, dangle a payday in front of me, and one's definition of purity might change. And besides, because we were outright selling these songs, it was unlikely that our name would be attached to them. So, there'd never be any royalties paid to us, and we wouldn't have any moral rights as to how the music would be used or where it would appear. And if it became a worldwide smash hit, I would never receive a penny. So despite all this, I still wanted to aim for the sun and make it a classic. It was an awesome challenge. So I thought hard about the lyrics and about what I wanted to say about life and living and loving and, the big themes. And thinking like this was in and of itself a challenge, because if you look at most Willie Wisely songs, they tend toward the specific, towards certain situations, points in time, or it's a story song with a plot. I don't generally write from the big, broad view. Like, think of U2 being an obvious example of this approach, using just enormous shared topics to bring meaning to one heart, but in a very broad and understandable sense. My approach is mostly to source from the narrow view and then hope that people interpret larger emotions and meanings from there. To be honest, I've always kind of believed that this compulsion of mine is what's stopped my music from being widely popular, but I got into this game to express myself, and if I'm not saying what's really on my mind, then there's very little pleasure in it, so I just do what I do. So I put some preparation thought into it, and I'm totally psyched for this juicy project. The problem is, I got kids, I got a wife, I got day jobs, and writing time is super scarce. And because late at night, my creative mind kind of shuts down, this dad of young children had to find a crack in the daily grind. So, voila, my 10-year-old daughter goes to gymnastics every Saturday afternoon. I drive her 20 minutes, and I drop her off for 3 hours. So, on this Saturday, the 21st day of October, 2017, I sent Ella through the front door of the gym in her leotard and tights. I drove my miniature electric Fiat 500e to an abandoned parking lot nearby. I crawled into the back seat with my acoustic guitar. I flung open the hatchback and the doors wide so I didn't suffocate in the California sun. And I sat there overlooking a viaduct in the San Fernando Valley. Actually, it's an enormous cement swale that's disingenuously referred to as the LA River. And I whipped out my black bound lyric book and got to work. So, I am holding on to my 2017 black bound lyric book. I took it off the shelf for this segment of the podcast and found the original pages where I drafted Face the Sun lyrics. Honestly, I never revisit this stuff, and it's pretty obvious that I should. Just looking back at this, for every song that I finished, there's another good idea or two that I threw away with which to start a new song. So, going to the page, 10/21/17. Across the top is scribbled, "Lead a life of intent." And then on the following page is a list of 15 life goals that I wrote. So you could tell I was in a change mood here. All right. The first line I wrote at the top of the page, and it's kind of barely legible, and I didn't use it in the song, but it says, "Sure as the sun follows the rain, there's no love without pain." So that's a nice thought, but it had sort of a negative tense, and I wanted this to be a song of universal hope. And plus, it had too many syllables for the music idea that John had composed. So I kept throwing spaghetti at the wall. And a lot of this is really terrible, but I might have to read it to you anyway. "Love might come soon or maybe late, but when you want stillness, you shake." Okay, that's pretty bad. It's trying too hard to rhyme, and it still smacks of defeat and negativity. But then more stuff comes flowing more fully formed from my pen. And this would become the third verse. "Be together, be alone, walk in circles, seek the unknown." All right, that's damn good. It looks like there's no corrections to it, so it looks like I just thought it up and wrote it. And you'll notice there's only "be together, be alone." There's only like 3 syllables per line. So that's more usable in John's music idea and doesn't require a big singing challenge. And so it's here that the song finds its theme of living in the extremes. And indeed, the next lyric says it straight away. "You'll know love once you feel it all." All right, so there's the through line of my song, if not particularly a chorus. At least it's the main idea. So at this point on the page, it looks like I had some flow, but there were still many more lousy ideas to come. So check this run of 3-syllable ideas and listen how they eventually find their focus and birth a fully formed second verse. And also note the word face makes its first appearance here. Remember, the title of the song is Face the Sun. So here it is. "Kiss the dirt, hear the wind, surf the wave, shake the cage, run with me, fear no height, press your face, devour rage, practice your rage." Whatever. "Shout the wind." Whew, was that bad? "Float in space. You will soar. You will embrace. Prowl. Ride the winds. Sink in the sea. Holler rage. Practice peace." So all of that grist I had to go through, a lot of it really sort of terrible and meaningless, to get to ride the wind, sink in the sea, holler rage, practice peace. And that was a great third verse. Practice peace is a little bit of a yoga-y thing. I thought it might turn people off, but, you know, I'm being earnest here. And there's no more earnest song in the world than Imagine. So with the third and second verse written, it appears I was writing in reverse for some reason. For the first verse, I let my use of the word face lead the way. I thought that was interesting, this idea of maybe sunburn or something, or sticking your face somewhere is fundamentally risky. So if you're living in the extremes, the risk of that seemed poignant. So I went back to the original concept of juxtaposing rain and sun and pain and love that was in the first line at the top of the page. And here's what came out. Face the sun, embrace the rain. Embrace I would eventually replace with the more sensual taste. So face the sun, taste the rain. And taste the rain plays nicely with the next line. Savor healing. Touch the pain. And I'd later change touch the pain to touch your pain. So that full first verse became face the sun, taste the rain, savor healing, touch your pain. So there I had the verses, and they were written in reverse, and the title of the song was obvious to me. It was the first line. So then John had written this section to me that sounded like a pre-chorus, and sitting there in the margins of the page was a really interesting idea. To take the middle road is to live not at all. Now check out what's going on there. I'm actually building in some suspense by saying to take the middle road is to live, which is antithetical to the theme of the song, living life to the fullest. But then I sneak in not at all at the end of the sentence. So the sentence structure builds an internal suspense. The listener thinks I'm contradicting myself, but then I don't. So with the lyrics damn tight, I went back to John and I asked him to replace one minor chord with its relative major in the bridge, rearrange a section, and repeat a couple things. So after a little editing, he sent me back a skeleton upon which I could sing some of the quietest and most legato lead and backing vocals I have ever sung. I was already starting to fall in love with this song. It was stretching me. It was calming me down. It was letting melody come through me nice and easy with no histrionics. And the supple, low, winding notes created this infinite and inevitable feeling that I wanted. So I sent John my stems, which is short for audio files that can easily be dropped into a multi-track session, and I prayed that he would find them inspiring. His first note was, "You wrote the chorus over the verse, and the verse is over where I thought the chorus would go." Oh, God. Did I screw this up? I should have known better than to worry. John's a journeyman. He's seen it all. He doesn't covet his assumptions or his ideas. And he knows that great music can be made this way or that way, and he wasn't here to argue. We were here to finish and to feed the famished client monster. So, on top of the piano and the vocals, John added drums and bass and slide guitar. And he also added his patented processing treatment to my voice, and probably tuned a note, or a few, as my pitch is not perfect. And he sent it back to me for review. It was apparent that we were both a little awed by how beautiful this was becoming. Now, normally you're doing music for commercial purposes, you don't fret the aesthetic details, but here I felt super compelled to answer to my heart. So I asked John to switch up the slide guitar licks he had added and do something a little more austere, and for a slightly different tone on the piano too. He sent me the final mix, and I believe he was the first to volunteer our basically simultaneous thought that maybe we should keep this for ourselves. It had turned into an honest artistic vision and not a mercenary one, and frankly, I wanted to put it on my next record. Well, it just so happened that I had my next record, as yet untitled, completely in the can, mixed, mastered, and sequenced, 8 tracks, ready to release, and all I had to do was title it and choose the cover art. And this is where synchronicity took over. Just a month or two earlier, I had asked my pal, photographer and video director, Rob Stark, to take some new photos of me. And he had this idea to poise me among the outdoor art installations at LACMA, the Los Angeles Contemporary Museum of Art. It's on Museum Row on Wilshire Boulevard. It's right next to the La Brea tar pits. We brought our daughters along to play on the grounds while Rob and I made photos. And from this very bright afternoon shoot came a particularly standout photo that both Rob and I were immediately magnetized to. It was of me leaning really far back between 2 cement slabs of a sculpture. So far back that, in fact, my whole body was shaking, like my abs were spasming, like you're doing gut busters in Pilates, while Rob was just taking photo after photo. Hold it right there. Hold it there. Just a second longer. Well, when you're in agony, all your pretenses about being photographed just slip away. And I was struggling to merely stay in position. And it was actually a great trick to get me to set my vanity down and find an honest shot here without me thinking about my hair or however I was pursing my lips or scrunching my brow or whatever. Or basically just thinking about how I'm not very young and good looking anymore. This photo, I was unconscious, and my body was fully engaged, and my blood was pounding, and my eyes were to the sky, and my mind was in the heights, looking straight up, and my face to the sun. And it turns out I had written this lyric for the picture that we'd taken months earlier, and I didn't realize it. And so it came to pass. I had my album title, Face the Sun, the gorgeous closing track, and the perfect photo image to go along with it. So here it is, the title track to my 2019 album, Face the Sun, written and produced with John Strawberry Fields. Paint a picture for us, Willie.
Face the sun, taste the you feel it all, ride the wind, sink in the sea, holler rage, practice peace, to take the middle road is to live not at all. You'll know love once you've lived it all. Have no fear, you'll find love. Have no fear, you'll find love. Be together, be alone, walk in circles, seek the unseen, to take the middle road is to live not at all. You'll know love once you feel it all. You'll feel love once you've lived it all.
That was Face the Sun, the title track off my 2019 album, written and produced with John Strawberry Fields. You know, when talking about songwriting, I always like to point out something technical, something for the songwriters out there, or those of you who are intrigued by what makes a song tick. So I've started this segment called Willie's Timeout Corner because it's so punishingly technical. The cool technical thing about Face the Sun, and one that you may not realize upon first listen, is that the bridge is in a slightly different key, harmonic A minor, than the rest of the song, which is in C major. The keys are related, and they share most of their notes, but the harmonic minor scale is known to be a little darker and more unsettling than other minor keys, which are often more sort of sad, sweet saccharine. For instance, heavy metal guitarists tend to prefer the harmonic minor scale. I only realized this after I added a bridge to the song, and for some reason my ear was hearing an E major chord in the bridge instead of an E minor chord that occurs in many other places throughout the song. I think my penchant for E major here had something to do with me wanting to have the bridge lyric give more pause, to sort of break the fourth wall, to stop using rhetorical words and instead address the listener directly and to talk about what I think the listener should do, the actionable item. And that was, have no fear, you'll find love. And for emphasis, I just simply repeated it twice. And it was like a moment to get real, and the harmonic minor assisted me in doing that. And it allowed me to be honest about the fear that we all have of standing still, the fear of the unknown, the fear of extremes, which I was busy suggesting the listener experience in the verse and the chorus. It was just a moment to get real, and the harmonic minor scale afforded me the opportunity to do that. I remember John saying to me on the phone, "Oh, you want a major there? Not a minor?" It would have been cool if I'd said right there, "Yep, dude, we're going to the harmonic minor for 30 seconds and getting heavy on folks." But honestly, I had to hit the books to realize what I'd more or less instinctually done. Now, normally on Watercolor Editions podcast, I will first play the new Watercolor Edition version and then the original studio version. But for this episode, I wanted to flip the script. And that's because once I started playing Face the Sun live with my bands, I realized it was too slow and mellow for the venues that I was playing. So I really had to weigh my love for the song against its usefulness in a live setting. And I decided to rewrite it. I felt it needed a more determined feel, boom, 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 more of a heartbeat. I wanted to put a bold opening lick at the beginning and at the end, and the bridge seemed to need more energy coming out of the bridge, and more than anything, it needed a bit more repeating of my main message. I had written a song called Face the Sun, but in the studio version, I only sing that line once, and it's the first line of the song, and then it's done. So I wanted to clobber people with the idea to feel it all, live it all, face the sun. So for a gig with my Minneapolis band, I demoed a new version of it with these changes that I'd made. And I'd honestly fallen in love with the song all over again. But life is funny, and for all the excitement I had over my rewrite, I played it for my band, guitarist Jeremy Ilvasacker and drummer Peter Anderson and bass player Stephen Price. And they all questioned why I was fussing with the arrangement. They felt it was really good already. And, frankly, a lot of people had already expressed to me that it was their favorite recording on the new album. So I'm messing with something that's working. So for that August 2019 gig at the Mill City Ruins, which is right on the Mississippi River, cool place, we played a slightly sped up version of the original arrangement, which tantalized me, but didn't completely satisfy the changes I wanted to make. So by the time we hit the stage at the Turf Club, January 10th, 2020, right before COVID, I talked them into all my new arrangement ideas, and we played it to a packed house on a Saturday night, and it just lifted me a foot off the stage. The song was finally at its apex, finally complete, finally liberated from its origin story, now standing on its own as a genuine artistic statement. So here it is, the Watercolor edition of Face the Sun, with all its new parts. Paint a picture for us, Willie.
Face the sun, taste the rain, savor healing, touch your pain. To take the middle road is to live not at all. You know love once you feel it all. Oh, you know love once you face the sun. the sun, you'll know love. Once you face the sun.
That was Face the Sun, Watercolor Edition, the fifth in my year-long series of acoustic singles celebrating 40 years a songwriter. All in all, in thinking about Face the Sun for this episode, it occurred to me that this song is my life plan, my mantra. I've always believed in doing things until they hurt. My wife calls it Camp Willie. I stay up too late, I run too far, I climb too high, and it's just often uncomfortable to be around me because I always want to be a little more ambitious than I should be. I can't tell you how many times in my life I've dislocated my ankle. But this is why music suits my constitution so well. It's not necessarily even something I'm good at. It's just through sheer force of will I love doing it so much. And it's just a universe of exploration. And it's taught me that making stuff, making things, is what's most satisfying. For instance, TV makes me crazy because you have to sit there, you have to watch it, you have to do nothing. Like friends refer me to the best films and they're just boring. I don't like consuming things and sitting still. I like making things and taking risks. To take the middle road is to live not at all. You'll know love once you feel it all. You will know love once you face the sun. Well, that's just about the final stroke for this episode of Watercolor Editions. If you dig Face the Sun, you can see my Laurel Canyon Sun Session version of it at the link in the description. That's me taking a rare turn at the piano, along with my beloved Los Angeles band, whom I miss very much. We've had a couple sessions canceled due to lockdown. But hey, we will gather again soon when it's safe. And big thanks to Ray Gianchetti at Kool Musik, who pressed Face the Sun to CD last year for all my fans. And you can buy yours from his site or mine. Links are in the description. And be sure to catch other episodes of Watercolor Editions featuring my songs Flowers for the Lady, Cracked Worldview, True, and Rain Can. And there are many more to come, dropping every other Wednesday until I drop. Or until you drop. Until one of us can't take it anymore. But know this, there's about 299 songs to go. Vinyl, t-shirts, CDs, and even cassettes are available at my Bandcamp page, williewisely.bandcamp.com. And the link is also in the description. Hit it! And lastly, punch the subscribe button. Don't be afraid you won't break the internet. Punch the subscribe button. And don't miss the next Watercolor Edition podcast when we'll put my song Parador up on the easel. A song I wrote around 2002 with Rebecca Lord. No, not the porn star. Although I am suddenly remembering that there is a video of that Rebecca Lord and me somewhere on the internet. Honestly. But that's another story. I'm talking about the Rebecca Lord, the early breakout personality on the TV show Road Rules. She was always a musician at heart, and what a great voice, and the lyric flow she has is incredible. More on her and more on our writing session when we paint another watercolor picture, play the new version and the original studio version, and chat it all down again on Watercolor Editions. I'm Willie Wisely. Thanks for listening.